I don't know if
Get
I ever saw
started.
Frank before.
Ready to go, Frank?
All set.
Okay. I'd like to call the Economic Development Commission's regular meeting to order. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2021. It is 7:33 and roll call. And we'll just, Joel, take the roll call here.
I'll do the roll call.
Okay. Katerina, if there's any votes, you can sit in for Zaga, because I don't think Zaga is going to make it tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Public participation. Frank, anybody there for public participation?
We have the Catherine camera.
Okay.
I'll allow her to talk.
Okay. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. Before I start, I guess I should clarify because every commission does things differently, and you have public participation as your category, whereas the town council has public comment. So all you get to do is comment. So I don't know if I have a couple of questions within my what I want to say tonight. So I don't know if I should pause there and see if you want to comment or anything, or should I just say what I have to say and, see if you want to say
it's not discussed, then you can't say it later. So you better discuss it now, just in case.
If we'll try to answer it if we can, Catherine. If I can't, then I'll have to get back to you, or we'll figure something else out.
Okay. Okay, so I just want you to know that I'm extremely confused about EDC's position on the Sealy property, because this commission got the town council to approve the $15,000 for advanced CT study, which suggested a village concept and had no suggestion of 60 or 65-foot buildings or drive-throughs on the site. And at the last EDC meeting, you held a vote to send a letter to planning and zoning. You did that on April 21st and said that you had questions of clarification of the whole proposed text amendment. And then that you had opposition to standards item D, which was, quote, if vertical construction of professional office space or residential units are incorporated above the retail commercial uses, the maximum height of any building shall be 65 feet from the ground level to peak of roof line. The EDC felt that the height exceeds any currently existing building in town, and it's entirely too high for that piece of property. EDC further wrote that a building of that height in the center of Oakville with proposed reduced side and rear yard setbacks from property boundaries would be inappropriate. Now, your letter said that you had questions of clarifications. What are those questions, and have your concerns been addressed? And if so, what was the result? Can you answer that now, or is that something you need to discuss? I don't know.
Well, maybe I can discuss part of it. I think that the two major things that we were concerned about was the height, as you just alluded to, and also the setback requirements. And I think generally, and there's people here on the other people on the commission that can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the overall concept of what was being proposed at this very early point was generally in line with what the advanced CT proposal was. Now, there was some differences with the drive-through and some of the other things that are being discussed right now, but I think the overall concept was close enough to the advanced CT proposal that we sort of, again, what left us with two concerns with the height and the setbacks. So, and everybody, am I summarizing that? I mean, I'll ask the commission, other people on the commission, if that's sort of what they remember.
Well, Joe, just to clarify, that's not, I know what was in your letter, but you had said that you had questions of clarification. So what I'm asking is, have they been addressed, and what was the result? I mean, nothing was addressed at the public hearing as to those particular things in your letter. So
okay, if you're asking me, has P&Z actually got back to us on those things and addressed those specifically? The answer is no, not at this time.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I was still very confused at the public hearing. on the proposed regulations when I heard the comments made on behalf of EDC, because Mr. Seacrest said EDC approves of the proposal. And then there was an email from Jack Traver as the EDC vice chairman on behalf of the Watertown Economic Development Commission, which was read into the record stating the EDC is pleased to support this proposed development. Now, the letter of April 21st was never mentioned, nor was it read into the record. So the impression given to the participants and observers was that EDC had no concerns with the proposed regulations whatsoever. Mr. Traver's email said that EDC supports the proposed development, but the public hearing is for a text amendment for the zone change. So was it Mr. Traver's intent to say that EDC is in favor of developing the site subject to the concerns raised in the April 21st letter? Because at this point, there's no development plan on the table. So it would seem premature to declare that EDC is in favor of any development without knowing what will be proposed.
Okay, so Jack isn't here tonight, and nor was I able to make contact with Jack before this meeting. So that question is going to have to be, I'll have to get back to you on that specific question.
So I'm curious if there was a special meeting that was held where it was determined that you have no reservations with the broad proposed regulations. And if there was, I'd like to know, because I'd like to see the minutes of that.
No, there was no separate meeting, no.
So if you still have the concerns with the proposed regulations that were noted in your April 21st letter, that wasn't made clear to the public at the public hearing.
Well,
So-
Catherine, I made reference in my comments to the concerns stated in the letter, and I said I won't take time to read the letter, but it was referenced that we support with the concerns that were expressed in the letter, which was in their packet. They all had copies of the letter.
Well, the public didn't. And actually, you had said something, I can watch it again. You had said, you referenced Jack Traver's letter. So that was read, but the April 21st wasn't. And it's kind of odd too, because there were people who asked for their letters to specifically be read into the record, and one of them wasn't, and yet it was just weird, because then Jack Traver's email was, which wasn't asked to be, and then the April 21st letter wasn't. So, you know, as a person who's been at both meetings, like, I was completely confused by the presentation of EDC at that public hearing. And if I didn't know, I happened to be somebody who knew what you had talked about, and that, as I understood it, that there was a letter. When I asked for it, I didn't get it at first. It took a day for them to, you know, get that letter to me. They just gave me Jack Traver's email. So I also thought, well, maybe you never did the letter. But I just really feel that your position needs to be clarified so that it can be part of the hearing record on June 2nd, because the impression left with the P&Z and the public, well, maybe not with P&Z, I don't know, but certainly with the public, is that EDC approves of any development on that site without any reservation at all. And that wasn't what I understood at your last meeting. And I know the Sealy property is on your agenda for tonight, so I don't know if anything will be clarified going forward, but I'm just letting you know what it looked like, what I understood between your meeting in April and the public hearing on May 5th. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Frank, is there any other public participation?
We have two other people. One had his hand up momentarily and then put it down. So there is no one who has their hand raised at the moment.
Okay.
I just wanted to say really quick, I'm sorry. It's my fault too, because I was supposed to speak at the planning and zoning at the hearing. I was on and I was on from work. So I kept having like weird issues. I don't know if Joe got my crazy text messages. I was sending him when I was doing that, but it kept like going in and out. So I didn't know if it was still counting me. And then I tried to like raise my hand and it wasn't working. So I don't know what happened. I heard most of that meeting, but I didn't get to say anything.
Okay.
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 So I felt
All right.
bad. I told you guys.
Fair enough. I mean, you made the attempt, so. Okay, so if there's no other public participation, I'll close public participation. And is there a motion to approve the minutes of
Make a motion, we
the
accept.
April 15th meeting?
I motion.
Okay, Teddy?
Second.
Okay, Robbie, second. Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, no correspondence. And, okay, Joe, economic development report?
Okay, I emailed you copies, and I'll go over it with you this evening. We spent a lot of time between that last meeting and this meeting, working on the restaurant revitalization fund. The government laid out $28 billion to, and they were in pure grants, they were not loans, so it was to help restaurants make up their losses. The first 11 days were reserved for people who owned, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and economically disadvantaged people. And then on the 12th day, they would accept other applications. Well, as you might surmise, and we had some meetings here telling people, regardless of your status, get in your application the day one, because it started as of noon that day. And almost everybody in town got theirs in time. And it was oversubscribed the first day. So whether the Congress allocates any additional funds, who knows? Joe Paletta thinks they will not, so I don't know. So number two there, and then, by the way, Zag Antonetti was extremely helpful in bringing our attention to all of this. She helped set up a meeting with, I think it was Don Roth. I remember. He's a executive director of the Connecticut Restaurant Association. He did a very, very nice webinar with just us, with just Watertown people, explaining how to go about, what to put in your applications. And he also urged everybody to get in fast because he knew it would be oversubscribed, and he was right. Number two there, I did send emails to all the restaurants in town that we have available emails to. And there's about 100 of them that I had emails for. And I reminded them of the criticality that they meet that deadline and urge them to get their applications in on opening day. And most of them did. I did hear from one restaurant owner, which was a woman-owned business, and she is very disappointed that she didn't get granted any of the funds. So that's the only one I've heard directly from. Number three, I think I've talked about already, about the 11 days. It was limited to certain people. We didn't think anybody except women, veterans, and disadvantaged would probably get any of these funds. And it turns out that they probably will not. Any one other than those three categories. Number four there, I spoke at the last P&Z public meeting on behalf of Joe McGrail because he couldn't be there. Public hearing considered the text amendment to rezone the former Sealy property. There was a significant number of mostly abutting property owners participating via Zoom. The P&Z decided to keep the public hearing open until the next monthly meeting. And in the comments that I made from Joe McGrail, I did make reference to the letter that we had written and said, I won't read it tonight because of time constraints. There are a lot of people who wanted to speak that night, but they had it in their packet in front of them. Number five there, we've talked for the last couple of months about being in the running for a 100,000 square foot manufacturing building. We were in the final running, but not the final choice for that property. So Watertown is out of the running for that. It would have been a very nice facility. We had the space for it. They looked at it. I don't know what happened between the developer and the landlord of the building that we recommended, but they decided to go someplace else. It's like when you apply for a job and you don't get it, and you say why, and they say there wasn't a more qualified candidate. So I guess in their minds, there was a more qualified candidate than Watertown. Number 6 there, I attended the grand opening of the, I think it's called Renaissance, I'm not sure the pronunciation, Health Club. It's at 320 Main Street in Oakville. And they sell very healthy smoothies and delicious, by the way, they're wonderful smoothies. And I'll combine that with number 7 down here. That says, was pleased to see that in addition to that store, there are 2 other previously vacant storefronts in that same building that are now rented. One of them is a nail salon, and one of them is a cosmetic cosmetology. I don't know the words here. They do makeup for the women, makeup and hair for the women, whatever that.
You'd be spot on. It's about cosmetology. Good choice.
Hospitality, all right. I got close enough for government work, which I'm in, so.
Oh.
I received in number 8 there, I received and reviewed a slideshow by Governor Lamont concerning how the local governments will share in the large federal funds as part of the new funding. The state's going to get a lot of money. We don't know exactly how much from the COVID relief. And there are about 5 or 6 slides in that presentation dealing with economic development. So I've been really studying those and trying to get hold of somebody in the governor's office to see if some of the projects we were thinking about could be considered. One of them is, as Joe McGrail had reminded me, for years we've been talking about gaslight lampposts on Main Street in Watertown and Oakville, and could it be used for that? One of the other issues that I've been talking with Mark Ramo about is the use of the old town hall. There's a developer that we've had several meetings with who wants to turn it into, the jail downstairs would be turned into a bar, and they would keep the cells as kind of atmosphere, I guess. Then on the second floor would be either an upscale restaurant or a small B&B. And then the top floor of that building, nobody's been in it except us, I guess, because it's condemned for large uses. But there's a beautiful all wood auditorium up there that they took a real fancy to. The issue is, this guy is a developer. He knows his numbers. He's done his homework. And he's estimating it would take $1.3 million worth of renovations to bring the building up to what code and what he would like to do. He has since decided that that's not he doesn't have 1.3 million to do it. And we're looking at perhaps some of the money from Governor Lamont's economic development could be helped to fund that. And another source of potential funding that I've been tracking down is we're members of Connecticut Main Street, and they have access to refurbish old buildings like this. They have access to some funds. So, and it's perfect for what Connecticut Main Street does. They want to restore main streets, downtowns of cities and towns in Connecticut. And of course, that building is certainly a landmark. Absent all of that, we do have a couple of offers to buy the property, but most of them, they won't say directly, but most of them imply demolishing the building and building new on that location. So we're still going to see if we can help this guy or find some way to help finance the restoration of the town hall.
I feel like because everybody used to say when it was a town building that it wasn't open to like historic grants and stuff like that, even though somehow Thomaston got away with it and they were able to get historic grants, and their town hall was, partially historic and partially new. So I wonder if there's any way to kind of, I mean, I'm sure it's limited right now, but when is it not, the grants that are available for historic buildings like that. Or if we like made it a bigger deal, or, I don't know. I just feel like there's something that can, like, the town can like rally around, you know what I mean? Like promote it and have like the like News Channel 8 come out and say like, what's going to happen to this. I don't know, something that can be done to save that, because that was always my biggest fear with this building was, our town hasn't taken care of it for 80 years. So it's like they really just kind of always had the plan of moving those offices and we're just not worried. It was just bandaging, like over and over, just putting a band-aid on things instead of fixing anything, because they eventually knew that they'd be gone. It'd be a shame.
I've tried to mention it to our local legislators, and they're going to see if there are any state funds that they might have some access to.
I wonder if it's more in line with federal funds.
Right, that's what I'm saying. More probably.
Maybe Johanna Hayes, or well, I guess that would be our port there, our contact there. But Watertown doesn't get much, and we don't ask for much in those situations. And considering they're talking trillions of dollars, I mean, we're a decimal point in this whole thing, just to put that thing back in the tax roll as a viable building. So I mean, maybe we could talk to Mark and see if we could reach out in that direction on a federal basis.
Mark had a meeting with Johanna Hayes.
Okay.
And this was one of the items that he mentioned.
Okay.
I don't know how it came out.
Okay.
So
We should try to reach out a little bit on that one.
Because it would be a shame that, and obviously the town is not interested in funding the restoration. So, and we're certainly not interested in heating it another winter and, maintaining the building long-term. So it is listed on the public market for sale. At the last town council meeting, they allowed for probably another month or so to see if something can be done. Everybody wants to save the building. But this guy, and it's a good idea and we all love it. But his issue is I spent $1.3 million and then nobody likes the food in the restaurant. They quit coming. And suddenly now he's got a burden on his shoulders.
I just wonder, even like, again, I don't know all the ins and outs of this kind of stuff, but when we are talking about giving tax breaks or any of that kind of stuff, this would be the one that I would say it's a former town building. It's our fault that's in that condition. So I feel like, not having to pay taxes for, a certain amount of years, I don't know, something that inevitably we still paid for it.
So Robbie, that was part of a discussion with one of the proposed buyers.
Oh, okay.
About using, and I even talked to Joe about thinking outside the box, and maybe even going a tax abatement for even a longer period of time.
Right. Yeah.
Provided that, we can agree that he's going to do X, Y, Z on the property.
Right.
This is with the idea with the original building, not as a tear down.
Correct.
Okay, just to be perfectly clear that for our historic building.
Yep. So, I mean, that was a point. So, I think we're allowed to give up to 7 years. And there's a table, but the town council can modify that table. And we could probably also say that after 7 years, you can reapply for another 3 years. So maybe you can get a 10-year tax abatement. I'm not saying 100%, but something for a 10-year period to help take the edge off it. So, but that was talked about, but the conversation didn't proceed in a proper way that the town council had to get involved at this point. But I think that's all on the table. I think we can certainly offer whatever we can offer, whatever the state law will allow us to offer. I mean, we're talking about one building.
Yeah.
And the taxes would be $5,000 a year. So, up against $1.3 million, that's not really significant. Now, when we negotiate with these, particularly with this one developer, we have proposed terms that we could probably lease him the building for, say, 4 years for maybe $5. So the town is assured he's going to do what he said he's going to do. That instead of selling him the building right out and then have it become another nightmare,
Yeah.
we thought we would do is have the town, we suggested the town would continue to own the building, but lease it back to him at, pick a number, $100 a month the first year, and if he's making progress towards renovating it, drop it to $50. And if he's in the third year, if he's done everything he said he's going to do, give him the property for nothing.
I mean,
I think the point being that everything was on the table.
yeah.
Nothing, we weren't gonna, we're gonna be as innovative as we could in order to get that to happen. But so far, we're not there yet, but none of it's off the table either, so.
I just get so nervous. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like a pessimist when it comes to all this stuff, but I just get so nervous with stuff like that. I feel like, the town really just let it fall so bad into disrepair that I don't know. It's like this was the plan all along, not to be a weird conspiracy theorist, but it's like, it's such a shame. So many towns would kill. I mean, look at Detroit that are like fixing up buildings that were in way worse condition. You know what I mean? Like and it's just a shame, but I know everybody's on the same page. I just wonder how creative they can get, if they can get like liens on, some of the requirements for historical buildings, or I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so it's not a dead issue, so
Yeah.
talks continue, so I think the last thing anybody wants to see is it ripped down, but.
Do we know exactly how old the building is?
1899.
1899? All right, so there would be some significant
Yeah.
care that would be needed given to the building.
Right.
Yeah, there are some structural issues. This guy really wants to do it. He's a historian and he loves the town and he would love to do it. And without beating this horse too much,
Yeah.
we talked to him about bringing on partners. The problem with bringing on partners is he's got to share that percentage of the profits. So if the restaurant is, wildly profitable, that would be fine and everybody would make their money back. But investors looking at it saying, you want me to take a third of it on a restaurant that may or may not go, depending on what kind of cook you get and what kind of food you serve and lots of other things. So he's hesitant to go out and seek financial partners. What he really would like is a grant of some kind from the state or the feds. So it's not dead, but it's breathing hard. And number 9 there, I had to read it myself here for a minute. Based on early feedback from Robbie and Zaga, who was helping us with the EDC website, the town website is leaning heavily on Southbury's because most of the people on that committee really liked what Southbury did. And Zaga had suggested that we take a close look at Southbury. So it could serve as a potential model for our use. I want to say something about getting together with.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for Dave Grant to come back to us with something we can look at, Robbie, and maybe set up an evening Zoom meeting with him. So, but again, I think we were trying to do something out of the box, trying to do something innovative, but we kept on going back, and people like certain towns, cities and town websites. So, and I think the Southbury had pretty much everything we wanted. And it was actually very similar to what Dave Grant was talking about initially. So if we could take that as a model, you certainly can tweak that a little bit. So I would think in the next week or two, we'll probably have a subcommittee meeting and just go over it a little bit. From what Joe and I looked at, it has everything that we really need. The right buttons, I'll go use the old terminology, but buttons and bells and whistles. So, well, it has enough bells and whistles that I think it'll meet our need. So,
Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right?
right, exactly.
So it's broken into two parts, the design phase, which is where we are now. What's it gonna look like? And then the content piece, which I can fill in whenever we decide the design.
Yeah.
And I can provide all the backup and the literal data that would be needed.
So just look out for that, Robbie, next week or two. And then we'll see.
Whatever you guys need.
But we'll probably do it. We're going to try to do it in the evening, so make it easier for you too.
Yeah, whatever you guys need for it, just let me know.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay, we done, Joe?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
And you were right, Joe. The place, it's renacer. It means to be reborn.
Ah,
I didn't hear that.
Oh, say it again, Robbie.
Renacer, it's a Spanish word. It means
Oh.
to be reborn.
Reborn.
Oh,
Okay.
renacer, well, thank you. My Spanish
It means
is,
to be born. So renacer just means to be reborn.
my Spanish is as bad as I thought it was.
And we said that's right on Main Street. That's a new place for Shakes and Greens, like out
Right.
on Main Street, Renacer,
It's next door to the post office.
next door to the post office. Thank you.
Okay, old and unfinished business. The budget, everybody knows that the budget passed, so our budget is now official, which included some monies for advanced CT for the branding, town branding, and also to try to market some of the properties in town. So Joe's been talking with Courtney at Advanced CT and try to get something going over the next week or so, and try to get a head start before the July 1st kick in of the new budget. So we should be able to hit the ground running on that one. Main Street storefronts. Actually, I have something to talk about here. So I had a very nice discussion with a merchant on Main Street in Watertown. And I'm not going to say who it was, but they told me, they pointed out a view or situation that I wasn't really thinking about. So in some cases, the storefront itself or the building itself is lacking in some certain ways, whether it be structural, having floors that want to support, what could or would go into a storefront, electrical, plumbing, a lot of other things. And so they were explaining to me, if they went ahead and they were to purchase the building and make all those changes, and also knowing that in some of those situations, there's apartments above there that probably would need some work and some renovations, that they would probably price themselves right out of the market. So they would be just putting a lot of money into a building or a storefront that they'll never recoup their funds from. And I really wasn't thinking about that, because I guess I look at it, it's not our money. So we can have this dream list of, why can't they do this or that to make the storefronts better, or just spruce up Main Street? But then I guess reality smacks you in the face, where you may have to spend $200,000 to renovate some of those things, and maybe the market just doesn't bear to recoup that money. So it was a very interesting conversation. I'm glad I had it, but that's not to say that that we can't pursue grants or other ways to help fund those projects. But I think the point is that the individuals that own the building, or some of the merchants that are in the storefronts right now, would be hard pressed to invest heavily into those buildings as the market is right now. I mean, we know the housing market's hot, but I don't know how hot the market is on Main Street in Watertown per se. So, but it was a good conversation to have. So But I think the grants or something along those lines would be the only way that we really could renovate that Main Street area.
I think even just like having, serious conversations like that with the people who are on Main Street, it's interesting because the big thing that they had done on that huge section that was from the red door to what was a dry cleaners.
The Great White Way,
What is it?
down to the Great White Way.
Oh, the wedding place.
To the start to the like State Farm
Yeah, okay.
before the wedding,
Yeah.
the Great White Way. That whole space, they redid it just literally using white paint. They just painted white, they didn't get anything crazy. It made it like uniform looking, made their own little flower boxes, and then just had signs that were letters, so they weren't like these crazy plasticky weird signs or whatever. And that's how they did it. So like literally it was that stretch is about, I think it's 6 or 7 storefronts, just that little chunk right there. And they probably did it when James did it from Onyx. He was the one that kind of took over and did that project. It maybe cost them $1,200 to do that whole strip. So I think we also have to give them ideas of how they can, which is maybe our fault, as EDC, maybe we can give them small ideas, not huge projects. That little teensy cookie or whatever. I don't know what it's
Oh, the itty bitty cookie shop.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah. Teensy cookie. They all they did was they put a awning.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that recently. They just put like a pink or whatever kind of color that just catches your eye to separate themselves from Main Street, and it looks awesome. And that's literally all they did was just do that. So I don't know. I think there's ways that we can show them you can make small improvements that have huge impact. It doesn't have to be, I mean, I understand what you're saying too, all the structural stuff and like, all that, but just for the storefront itself, it's just so important. I mean, I had a whole nother conversation recently with somebody that found out I was from Watertown, and they're like, oh yeah, like we're in Litchfield, we drive through, all the time or whatever. Wow, Main Street's looking rough, it's like, so that's like the impression that these people get who come through our town. And then they were like, it's such a shame, right? Because your town has so much potential. And I'm like, I know. So it's like these people that don't have any, relationship with what, because we forget, we see it every day. It's like, you just don't pay attention anymore. But these new people that see it, it's a shame because we do have that potential. It's built in already. It's right there. One thing that drives me crazy are these signs. And Joe, I think we talked about this before, like what's her face was kind of a sign Nazi, but now I feel like we have like no rules when it comes to signage. So it's like, there's just signs in every window, floor to ceiling, just with crazy things on it. For whatever reason, I don't know what happened, that these small businesses got the memo to put their phone number on these signs, which is such a waste of time and energy and everything, because nobody is writing that number down. It just makes it look sloppy. It takes away from their actual signage. So I don't know if we can give like businesses tips.
Well, we certainly can. I mean, we could, as a commission,
Yeah.
we certainly can get maybe more involved with Connecticut Main Street. Joe sent Patrick, keep on, Mahone, is it Mahone? Yeah, remember, no, McMahon. Patrick McMahon.
Yeah.
We can get him to attend one of our our EDC meetings, and maybe sponsor a seminar from Connecticut Main Street for all the businesses on Main Street, Watertown and Oakville.
Because
Maybe he could walk it, because he has their specialist within Connecticut Main Street that talks about storefronts and renovations, and that's why Joe reached out to him to see what could possibly happen with the town hall. So, let's see if we can get Patrick to attend our meeting over the next month or two, even on a Zoom basis. Even if we're all in the conference room, we can have him Zoom in, and let's just let him do an overview about Main Street of small America, small town America, and see what ideas we can get there.
Yeah, it's just such simple thing. I mean, the signs, again, that's a planning and zoning thing, but at the end of the day, I feel like that needs to be like really addressed in town. Again, it was so extreme before, and now I just feel like there's like no rule. I mean, if when you look at the like all the stuff that people put in, it's craziness where it's like, where is your eye supposed to even go? Then people just block it out as they're driving through Main Street, so they don't even see what's there anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's a shame. It's not doing them any justice.
Right. But
You
I
know?
think at the same time, I think right now, it would have been suicidal to go down that path with COVID.
Oh yeah.
So now COVID's behind us, and we can certainly start looking to the future and maybe tighten some of those rules up. I mean, that's up to P and Z to do.
Yeah.
But maybe we can back down a little bit. But I think I was under the impression basically anything goes to keep these businesses afloat over the last 18 months.
Yeah, but I mean, all these signs are from 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
not like,
but I think it's got worse over the past year or so,
Yeah.
18 months personally.
and I'm not even talking about like the temporary things where people are trying to like, put it stuff on the roads or whatever. Even like with the schoolhouse building, that's like Schoolhouse Deli or whatever, that little corner. I
Mhm.
don't know if you saw the signs now that are like in every single window for that the liquor store that moved there.
Oh, okay. You're talking about it, Fern Hill.
It's like the craziest. It's signs screwed on top of signs on top of signs. It's like, it just looks horrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no reason for that. It's a liquor store. Like we get it. We know what you have.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like calm down with all that stuff. It's just, I don't know, if we're just trying to make it look a little bit neater at least.
Well, and there is some good news in all of this. I mentioned that three new storefronts are filled now. And
Yeah.
the fourth, and Katerina, you have to help me with another language now. With the Greek food, is it gyro or gyro or what are those sandwiches?
Oh, they're-
Sure.
Yeah, they're called gyros, but yeah,
Yeah.
euros. That's,
And that restaurant is opening up now.
I've heard
So,
great things about that one. I've had several people who've really seem to be really into it. So that's gotten good attention already.
And they're all in Oakville, which is a real positive thing,
Right.
starting to fill up the storefronts in Oakville, so.
Lebanoni too. I don't know if you saw, they are renovating.
Yeah, they put up something on their website that they're renovating and just kind of revamping.
It looks really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they definitely were. I've had a chance to speak to the owners, and they definitely wanted to open up and bring back something fresh and new, and really, because they were closed they were taking limited orders there for a little bit through COVID, and they're really kind of ready to put themselves back on out there again.
So good.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we're really onto something here when we were talking about the stores on Main Street, and when you had said they were speaking about the structure of the buildings and the owners really like, how much do you want to invest in your business that you're then not going to be able to recoup? And I see that if we do some preventative work here with these businesses on Main Street, we won't have another town hall issue on our hands where these businesses, the actual structure of the buildings have been uncared for.
Mhm.
It seems that if you have someplace good for your business, you care for it, and then we can go move on to like, Robbie, what you're talking about, those signs and putting something on out there that you really care about, keep that really small town feeling. But if you're worried about your electrical, if you're worried about your AC, it's hard to put more money into your business to present it the right way. And I would really hate to see I love this town, having grown up here my whole life. You're right, you become very numb to what you pass by every single day. And I was almost unaware of how poorly our town hall had come down. But it's just from, you pass by it every day. You assume, well, it's always looked like that.
In the last
doesn't have
5 years, oh, excuse me.
No.
In the last 5 years, I've spoken with most of the landlords on Main Street. And they tell me as nicely as they can that I'm interested in triple net leases. I want a tenant and I want them to pay for everything and to do everything. And I don't know how you get around a property owner saying, hey, you know, you got to put up some money. And then he looks at me and says, well, why don't you put up some money?
So we can certainly we'll see if we get Patrick to come to our next meeting, or within the next 2 meetings, we'll see if Patrick can join us. And just give us an overview of Connecticut Main Street and what they can offer small businesses also.
And
I
if you
tried
guys
to
want-
get us.
if you as a commission want to do it, I put in my mind what you all were just saying is clutter. I mean, a lot of towns seem to be cluttered with signs. And I think that is something that we can in fact do something about with P and Z. Robbie, you were talking about Ruth Mulcahy, who went on a tear.
I didn't want to say her name, but yeah.
Yeah, about signs.
Now we said it.
She was the extreme, probably. I think it's like we needed something more in the middle, and she
Yeah.
was very extreme with it. And now it just seems like we have nothing. And it seems like a stupid thing, but like I said, I tried to get us on that TV show. I applied for us, the hometown.
Yep.
And I'm watching it now, and it's so good. And they're saying the same things that we're saying here of just those small little tweaks. So there's those huge remodels that people are always going to do, you know, the Great White Way remodels that people are going to do. But then there's those little weird things that are like literally put a flower box that you made out of scrap wood, or, you know what I mean? Anything like that. So it's like, it sounds so stupid to talk about signs, but it really doesn't do them justice, because you see such busyness that you just look right past everything. You know what I mean? If you see a sign that you see exactly what's in that business, what's available, when they're open, boom. You know what I mean? Like it's like I said, that the itty bitty cookie, they just put a pink awning and it says cookies across the awning. And I was like, boom, I saw it in a second when I had never really saw where they were before. Because you're just going through Main Street just like you do every day, and you know, you're not paying attention and stuff. So I don't know.
There is a planning and zoning regulation that prohibits most signs. I mean, if they go exactly by the rule, nothing would be permitted. And
Right.
that was your point, Robbie, about, you know,
Much.
the regulation now reads very strictly that if you go through it and you read the things you cannot do, no internally lighted, no A-frames, no neon lights. There's a whole list of those things. And maybe part of our partnership with P and Z, we say, why not take a look at some of those regulations? Because right now, P and Z and we and everybody else are we perceive ourselves, I guess, as being understaffed. And unless somebody complains, we don't really follow up. And I think if you guys, EDC, at this meeting or the next meeting, want to make a motion that we revisit the whole sign regulation issue, that might be something we can do.
Well, let's see if we can get Connecticut Main Street here first before we do anything like that. I know I'm thinking here Back to the Future, because if we roll the clock back 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I don't know how long it's been a while. We were to Joe's point exactly, we were complaining that P and Z was too strict.
Yeah.
And people were getting pissed off because they were ripping, they had to take all their signs down. And then we had talked at this commission at our meetings where maybe we could allow them to have signs for so many days a year or so many days a month, or I forgot what it's going back. We will look back through the minutes.
Yeah.
We had a lot of discussions about that, and then that sort of just went away, because I think the person that we were talking about left and things sort of loosened back up again a little bit. So, but let's see what other towns do. I don't want to be, follow the leader in that sense, but I don't want to be so totally different than all the rest of the towns that we hurt ourselves in the process. And
Well,
I think we're going to find is that there's a happy medium somewhere between where we are now and where we should be. And it's not going to be, somewhere between 0 and 100. So.
And I think just always come, we're EDC, so it's like always coming from the viewpoint of this is to help your business. You know what I mean? Like, we're not trying to we're not trying to do anything. We're trying to enhance people being able to see what you actually are, what your services are that you offer, um, improving the people who are gonna actually like stop and shop at your place, or there's just, I don't know, I feel like there's ways around it to kind of make it part of the thing that we talk about too, of like having that grant where maybe EDC does have a grant that this building wins the lottery for that year and they get a little facade upgrade, and then the next year something else, you know what I mean? Like, just always frame it in the way of, we're EDC, we're here to help you. This is not to hurt you, kind of thing. So the proper sign shape and size and whatever is figured out so that people can see what you are. So you're not so far away. Like Rock Garden, I know that was the last one that Ruth did. That was such a nightmare, just because I worked right next door at the time and she was really hard on them. You could barely see what their little words were in their sign. You could barely see it. And it's like, that's not helping anybody, So I think just trying to figure out all that stuff. And why not see what other towns are doing,
Yeah, okay. All right, so let me get working with Joe to get Patrick here, either next month or the month after, and then we'll continue this conversation.
Cool.
Okay, I think the item C, Joe already talked about, that was that charging station company.
Right.
No, that was the Joe Paletta one. That's the,
Well, they're. I had in mind the charging station.
Yeah, okay.
But there, Joe Paletta Senior is trying to get one of his customers to build a factory in Watertown.
okay, but that's still pending.
That's still there.
Okay, item D, so Sealy update. So I guess, I don't know if I caused the confusion or exactly where the confusion came from on this whole thing, but as I remember it, when we were talking about, we supported the Sealy proposal, I think it was based on the fact that what was going into that overlay zone, if you want to call it, or the change the zoning rules for that site, was because what was mentioned was a combination of retail, commercial, and residential. I think the last meeting, if we go back, we didn't get into the weeds about exactly what store, what type of retail was going to go there. I don't think that's our place. But I think the overall concept where we said, okay, retail, commercial, and residential, we're going to be on that site. And I think that was the support we gave. Now, somebody can tell me I'm wrong, but we have no authority to get involved with exactly what retail or what commercial or what residential. But I think it was the overall concept that we were excited about, and something that we accepted, or we,
From our report.
yeah, from it matched the report to a degree. Maybe they use the word little village concept and some things like that, but what got my attention was it hit the three major points that Advanced CT had mentioned for that site. And again, EDC is not in a position to tell people to define each one of those categories for what's going to go there ultimately. So, Katerina, did you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, I think as far as I remember having come into all of this, is the understanding that there was an acceptance and an excitement for some kind of economic development of the old Sealy property that had been addressed. And this was an avenue that we wanted to support for the little shops and for the residentials.
Right.
So I remember, not off the top of my head the exact words, but the overall feeling of what you were.
And I do think that we had two concerns. One was the height,
Yes.
because I was really taken by surprise of just how high that was, and the setbacks. And I think those are the only two things that we were worried about from the actual, what was being proposed by Joe Yaman and John Lombard. So, Robbie or Ted, can you add anything to that, or?
Joe, I gotta agree with exactly what you said. That's my recollection and understanding of our position. Exactly what you said.
Robbie,
Yeah.
you were at the meeting.
Yeah, and I think, you know, they were so funny the way they were talking about it was like they were talking about different projects, all the guys, but what John Lombard kind of came forward and said, it was, you know, that they're going to be going really slow, taking their time, making sure that everything is, you know, done correctly. The whole, like, you know, measure twice, cut once kind of thing, as far as what the area calls for, you know what I mean? So I felt better after he talked, than some of the other people in their group. He sounded like he's going to take his time, and just personal conversations I've had with him over the past, it sounds like they get what kind of opportunity this is for the town. And I don't remember hearing anything if they talked about the height themselves during the meeting. If they addressed that, I don't remember that piece, but I remember that was really what our primary concern was.
Right.
Coming from EDC, but I felt a little bit better, like I said, after listening to them talk.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I just want to make sure that again, you know, we're not in a position as a commission to talk specifics. We can talk concepts, and we can voice our concerns about certain things, but you know, again, I always thought we partner with P&Z to maybe give them a different view of some of the things that happen in town that they look at. And it's just trying to be positive feedback. It's not to be you know, not trying to confront them or to try to take over their job. I think it's, again, when you go back and you read the advanced CT report, I mean, it's at a high level. Now, we're not in the weeds now, we're at a high level. You know, what Lombard and Mecca and Yaman talked about sort of met in a general terms of what the advanced CT proposal was. So, I mean, I'm glad that if we're in agreement, then that may answer some questions about that was raised earlier in public participation. So,
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really get very specific on anything when
yeah, I
we were
mean, we
talking.
don't know what P&Z is going to do. I mean, P&Z could come back and they, you know, they know what our concerns are, and we won't know until they make their final decision, or when after they get together and they meet at the next meeting to see, you know, maybe they lower that. But I think I was trying to remember as I get older, this gets foggier and foggier, but I mean, the Sealy building was probably somewhere around 40 feet, 50 feet before they ripped it down. I mean, it was a 4-story building, but part of that first floor was actually in the ground. It wasn't full 4 stories above ground. So it has to be somewhere between 40 and 50 feet. And if that sets the tone for that new project, then so be it. I mean, you know, we just raised the question about 65 feet. I never said, we never even talked about what's appropriate. I think what's appropriate is what was there. I mean, you can't go back and unring a bell. You let Sealy have that building some years ago and set it up at 40 or 50 feet, whatever it might be. So I think that might be appropriate for that area. So.
Could you see it from your house, Joe?
No, I could not. So that's why I know it's less than 65.
I just remember it being really boom, like right when because I just remember after I was in 2nd grade when they rerouted that bridge.
Yeah.
So I just remember the building still being there before they had the green, but they had redone the bridge and the building was just like boom, like right on the edge. But I don't really remember.
I remember from going to the fire department, we used to go in there every so often, there would be an alarm. And we'd have to truck up, you know, there was a heat sensor, and I think the top floor used to go off once in a while on a real hot summer day. We'd have to go tromping through that building to make sure it wasn't burning. But I think I'm almost positive it was 4 stories. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. So
It's interesting. It's still on posted on the town website, the last P and Z public hearing. And if you get some time, it would be good to listen to what people who live around the neighborhood and other people were saying about what was proposed. And you can hear what the developers said, what they were considering or thinking about. So it's a good education to go back and see. I thought it was a good cross-section of attitudes.
I sat and I listened in on that particular P and Z meeting. I just kind of sat in the background and took it all in, and it sounded that there was a lot of support for the development of it, just kind of concerns of what and how it was all going to kind of go on about.
Right.
Just like you said, the surrounding areas.
Yeah, and I do think even with advanced CT, we've had conversation with Courtney from advanced CT, and you know, the what is always the scary part.
Yeah.
So again, if you get the general concept, you put that in place, but the who is makes everybody nervous. And I don't think in this retail environment, anybody's gonna put their name on who until they got an actual hard contract in their hand. And I think there's other things that happen there too, is that they know it's a tight area for traffic. So there's gonna be some limitations on how much traffic that area can bear. And there'll be traffic studies, and there's other safeties that are gonna be in place, not through EDC, but through P and Z during the whole process when they do come forward with a plan. So you know, you're not, I mean, I never say never, but I'm pretty sure you're not gonna have a high volume retailer there, because I can't see how that intersection, that whole area could support a very high traffic flow. So I think there's some natural protections that are gonna happen for that site. So, but that's just my thought.
I just don't like when people say like the whole, I've said it to you guys before, like the development for development's sake or development for tax purpose. It's like, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, let's put a little bit more thought into it than that. And everybody seemed like they really were.
Mhm.
Yeah. Other than maybe one person that I heard talk on PC, everybody seemed like they got the gravity of the potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's set there, we'll move on. Okay, item C, we already discussed the website. And we'll move on to new business. The RRP, the Restaurant Revitalization Program. Joe spoke about that also. And I'll ask Joe to speak about this welcome packet for businesses that you already started.
Well, yeah, I need your help on this one, because I don't think anybody's opposed to having a welcome packet for new businesses in town. My issue is, what do you put in it? People who open stores generally have decided that they know about Watertown, and that's why they're opening the store. So to tell them about the town would be sort of redundant. When the old Welcome Wagon days were around, that was a for-profit business. But they used to, then it was all for residential, and they used to go around and offer a discount coupons. And one thing I know we could include is the Town Times booklet that talks about government and who do you go to see about what. So that could certainly be put in there. But I struggle with what to put in a welcome packet, because if you assume it's all people who are totally new to the town, don't know anything about the town, that's one thing. But people who open businesses have usually done their research and know demographics. They know where the police department is. They know where the fire department is. So I'm just struggling with what to put in there. I'm perfectly willing to do it, and I think it's a great idea. I just don't know what to put in it.
Well, I think all that should go in there. I think we need to put a sheet in there that navigates the town government. And I think it's the building inspector, it's P and Z, it's the town clerk, and it's the fire department, police department. I think it's just, that could be a one pager of how to navigate that.
If they're already opening a business, they've gone through all
Maybe not.
that. Well,
I think having the booklet would be great, the Town Times booklet, and then a nice welcome letter from EDC just to establish that relationship as a business. And then kind of like Joe just said, just a real basic, like one pager. I don't think it has to be like a massive packet just for the way things are today. And really maybe wait until the website's finished. So that way we can say like, go directly to this link for the EDC's website, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. And I can help you with that if you want any help. But I don't think it has to be anything crazy. Just a nice little welcome and like, here's the where to find what.
How can you help? I mean, I'll give you a small example. Someone bought a house not too far from where I live. And I was sort of, and I say chuckle, I don't mean that literally, but there was out in front of their house, there was a pile of trash that they've accumulated during the move, boxes. And the stuff sat out there for a few days, and I found out that they moved from Waterbury. So when you're Waterbury, you put the stuff out in front of your house, and the garbage man comes and everything is gone. Well, they didn't know that you had to pay for trash removal in Watertown.
Yeah.
So, so then a few days later, I saw the Copes or the waste company for Watertown, I see their barrels there, so they got it. But little things like that, I think we even add that to the list of trash removal and some of the other things. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be like Robbie said, it doesn't have to be exotic, just something very basic to get people started. And once the website's there, then we'll have a lot more information, but I think that's pretty simple.
Well, that gives me some guidance. And if you come up with something else, let me know, because, residential is a whole nother issue. Somebody moving to town that doesn't know anything about the town, we can put a lot of stuff in there.
Right.
But for a business person who's decided to open a business in town, they've probably gone through most of, I've made my speech.
But I think some of these mom and pop businesses, I wonder if they've done a deep dive. I mean, you see a lot of businesses are they have a thought, they have a dream, they have a concept, and they want to open up a small store. I don't know if they've done all the heavy lifting to do.
And that's the difference. If it's somebody who's thinking about coming to town, we've got a lot of stuff, and our new website, I just finished a section, says, well, if you want to start a business in Watertown, here's what you have to do.
Mhm.
So that's one group of people that we certainly can address. The other group are the people who, like the smoothie shop and other people, they don't. I found out later that they went through planning and zoning, they went through all the things they had to do, they went through the health district, and they opened up. And by the time I got there to tell them about those things, they gave me the look like, yeah, well, hey, buddy, we know that stuff.
But I guess a little extra information never hurt, right?
Doesn't hurt. I mean, I think it's a good idea. And I know the Town Times book and a checklist of, government things that you ought to think about. And anything else, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm
Do we
open
have
to any suggestion on that one.
Is there anything like that already exists for what you just said? Basically, like I want to open an ice cream shop or whatever, and then it's like these are like the things that I need to do, like the basic stuff. Is there like where would you go for that?
I just finished a document that addresses all those things
Okay,
that will be in our new town website.
cool.
It will link to this document. The town website, the homepage will say, I want to : and then when you close down, one of the things will be start a new business in Watertown. And if they click on that, it will direct them to the link that has this document on it of everybody you have to see and what you have to do.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, any people that are like a prospective people are going to just go online or call you. It's going to be one or the other kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's good.
Sure.
Works.
Okay. All right, so guess we'll move on to item 9. Is second participation limited to items on the agenda? Is there anybody for second public participation?
Yes, we have two people as attendees. Both of them have their hands raised. One of them is Catherine Camera. The other one's name is Jack.
Right, okay.
Who would you like first?
I guess Catherine is fine.
Okay.
It's okay with me if you want to hear from Jack first. Since I talked before, because I know I talked and somebody put their hand down, so I don't want to maybe let him go. That's okay with me.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, Jack? I think his microphone is muted.
Yeah. Jack has to unmute his microphone.
Jack, if you could unmute, please.
Okay, so why don't we, Frank, why don't we go back to Catherine? and
Okay.
then We'll move back to Jack, okay?
Stuck his hand.
All right. Catherine?
Am I unmuted?
No, you're unmuted, yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see the sign. Okay, it's Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. And I'm going to talk about Sealy again because that was on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we were all at the same meeting. So, I guess first, I get what you're saying about what you can and can't do, but as I sat through years, more than a year talking about Sealy and getting this advanced CT and spending the money for it and everything, and now it's sort of like going mute. And I'm going to tell you, look at that advanced CT. I know that I saw in several places, no drive-through. It absolutely does not recommend drive-through. And Mr. Yaman at the meeting, when people were pushing about the drive-through, first of all, he clearly said they have no idea what they're putting there. And then he tries to compare it to Blueback Square. And then he tries to talk about drop-offs as if drop-off and drive-through are the same thing, and they're not. There was a lot of bad information. Chairman Antonetti talked about a road safety audit being in that area, and I've confirmed with Department of Transportation that there is not one. There hasn't been one. There's no plan to be one. And when the public asked several times concerned about safety, twice he brought up a road safety audit. So that was not good information going out to the public. Eric Markowitz got on, didn't give his address and said he lived in the area. He lives in Watertown on Artillery Hill Road. And then he said a factory could be built there, a 5-story factory could be built there tomorrow. Absolutely could not happen. It's zoned business commercial Oakville. It was bad information disseminated out to the public that no one refuted. That's not the zone, and it couldn't happen tomorrow. There would actually have to be some legal work done if somebody wanted to put a factory back there because the zone had changed. There's some issues there if that was to happen. It was very disappointing. I mean, I understand what you're saying about, yes, everybody would like to see that property developed, and there's a lot of concerns about certain things. I know Advanced CT report says does not recommends against drive-through. So I'm disappointed that that never came up with the EDC. Because when you're saying that you don't think something could, I understand the configuration of that property. It would be very hard to have something that had a lot of traffic there. But believe you me, if they pass it in that zone, they'll figure out a way to put it on there and make the money off of it. I mean, there's nothing we can do. There will be nothing you can do once if they pass what they have, the text amendment that they have for a drive-through. It doesn't matter whether or not that area can support it. If it's part of the zone, they'll find a way to do it. And that's a major concern of mine, is this drive-through. So there was information that just wasn't accurate. And there were 2 commission members who said they were in full support of it. During the public hearing isn't even over yet. Sorry, I've got a timer going off, excuse me. You know, I'm speaking to somebody from the public and somebody from that area, right up the road. You know, when I hear two chairmen, and they're quoted in the newspaper as well, saying how they support it, while you're still in the public hearing, tells me you don't care what the public has to say. And that's really unfortunate. And this is where I have such a bad taste about the way things are handled in town. And lastly, I want to say that Mr. Yaman purchased Griffin School, which was South School when I went there a very long time ago. It was a historic building that we all thought was going to be changed into elderly housing. And look what we got. So, you know, everybody thinking that they're going to do what they say they're going to do and it's going to be great. You know, I hope you're right. And I hope I'm not coming back 5 years from now and saying I told you so, because I really am concerned about this text amendment change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Frank, anyone else out there?
John has his hand, Jack has his hand up.
Okay, Jack?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, amazing. I've been trying to get through. As you notice, I go next door to my daughter's house to use her equipment, and we just didn't seem to make it all work, although I've been attending the meeting, but not vocally.
Okay.
Nice
So,
to hear you, Jack.
as a matter of fact, the last time I mentioned something like that, a number of people have called and told me that they really appreciated the fact that they couldn't hear me. But about my name was mentioned regarding the Sealy thing. So I did send an email to on behalf of the Watertown Economic Development Commission as vice chairman and regarding the former Sealy property. So what I said in that email, which sounds terribly controversial and subject to innumerable interpretations, what I said was, and I'm not sure this was mentioned, but I said, after many years of effort to get this property moving forward, the EDC is pleased to support this proposed development. Period. End of story.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, and I did think that that your sentence or sentences reflected pretty much what Joe had said. You know, we did have, as we talked earlier, we did have, you know, two issues or two concerns about the height and the setback, but beyond that, I think as we discussed, I don't know if you were listening before, Jack, but you know, we sort of did a poll of everybody on EDC, and we felt that we were embracing the concept of retail, commercial, and residential on that site. And we weren't getting into the weeds as far as what the exact makeup of that would be. So Advanced CT, you know, made some suggestions, and again, I'm not saying that this proposal follows that to the T, to the letter, but I think overall that the general consensus was it was closer, or it was in line with what Advanced CT was mentioning with that property. So, so yeah, so I after somebody asked me to look at what you said, and I did, and that's my feeling, is that you echoed basically what Joe Sechrist had said, minus those two concerns we had, and I'm okay with that. I don't think anybody on the commission has an issue with what you said either. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we adjourn, Charlie's
here.
Yep.
We want to hear some baby crying in the background.
All right.
Don't pinch the baby now. Come on, let's not do anything crazy.
My wife just gave him a bath, so he's out for the count.
Oh, there you
All
go.
right, good.
And I'm sorry I don't have the camera. I got a new iPad last month. For whatever reason, Zoom won't sync up to it.
Oh,
That's
wow.
okay. Well, we're fine, Charlie. I saw you were there. You've been on through most of the meeting. So I appreciate you coming in, and especially with all your new duties that you and your wife are facing, so.
Hey, I got to take care of the newest resident of Watertown.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right.
It'll be nice to see you all in person next month.
So if everything goes good, we'll meet in person in the council chambers next month, and so that'll be getting us back to normal. And is there anything? We just found out that I think, Robbie, you might have. This is not on the agenda, so but just one other comment I'm going to make. I guess Filson's. Did you mention Filson's to me? Filson's up for sale. So we know that's being worked on now.
I know what that is.
They've stopped production completely,
Yeah.
and it's up. for
Oh,
sale.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just to let everybody know that's we did get confirmation today that it is up for sale, and so I guess it says officially closed right now. There's only 1 or 2 cars there on occasion. So, but again, it's on the market, and so that'll be the last bit of information for you guys. All right. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Okay, Charlie. Thank you. Okay, and I'll see everybody in person next month.
Very good.
Thank you so much for attending.
Take care.
Okay. Bye bye. Okay.